You're listening to 100 Words or Less with Ray Harkins. What is happening, everybody? Welcome to the podcast in which we obsess over the details in punk and hardcore and indie rock and emo and metal and all of those genres. As long as it is of the DIY variety, that is what we cover. And it's a wide swath of people. I mean, we're talking about everything from major label artists down to podcasters like myself. I was going to say pod nerds, but I decided to not be pejorative against them. And today is a person that I am thrilled to speak to and thrilled to bring the conversation to you, Akil Godsey, the vocalist from End It. And I'm probably butchering his last name, and Akil, I very much apologize in advance, but he is a force to be reckoned with. End It came on the scene, I don't know, it was like pre-pandemic, right? Like maybe a year or so before. And it was one of those things where it latched on to people's imaginations. And now they have a new record out called Wrong Side of Heaven that is out now on Flat Spot Records. They're touring in support of it. I unfortunately missed them when they rolled through LA because I was traveling myself. But all the live footage I've seen of them, it's arresting. It is hardcore the way that it should be done, in the spirit of so many of the past Baltimore bands, whether it's Trapped Under Ice or whether it's Torn Apart, whatever it is, that is the channeling that they are ushering through the world of End It. And Akil is just a great hang. He has a perspective, he has a voice, he has all those things that I think make hardcore front people entertaining and also engaging, because after all, we are attracted to people who have a point of view. And I think that when you just become this sort of vanilla band and are kind of going through the motions, doing the same things that everybody else is doing, like it just gets really, really repetitive and boring. And fortunately, End It is not one of those bands. You are looking for a way to support the show, right? For one, thank you for listening. For two, leave a rating and review on the Apple Podcast page, and simply just leave a rating on the Spotify page. However you listen to it, we appreciate it. You can also listen to these episodes as I publish them on YouTube, because that's how many people consume podcasts, and that's totally cool, totally fine. We are not going to do video. I'm sorry, but that's just not in the cards for me. I am not going to, have a studio where I'm going to have a neon light behind me and all that sort of stuff. Like that's just not the way I'm going to roll. And truthfully, I know that's sometimes it's ridiculous to draw a line in the sand when you're just like, I am sticking to the core principles of what this thing should be. But the way that video has infiltrated in good and bad ways to the podcast universe, I'm just keeping it audio, keeping it in your head. And then anyways, the point being, you can listen to these episodes on YouTube. There's a link in the show notes where you will be able to dive into that and subscribe as you see fit. And you can, minimize a window when your boss comes up and is like, hey, did you finish that TPS report? And you're like, yeah, absolutely. I'm right on it. And then 3 days later, you turn it in. Anyways, you can also email the show, 100wordspodcast@gmail.com. I receive all inquiries and guest ideas, whatever is coming into your brain. Feel free to drop me a line there. Love to hear feedback and love to make those relationships, because truthfully, I do read them all and I respond to them pretty regularly. So let's talk about the weekly recommendations, because I've been doing this for the better part of 2 years, and I just want you to be keyed into new records I've discovered. It can be old records that I've recently discovered. All of that is in a playlist. Link in the show notes. It's on Spotify. I'm going to create a Apple Music playlist as well, summarizing all this stuff. But the recommendation this week is from a label who I ride so hard for, called Sunday Drive Records. Jonathan Gonzalez, he is the proprietor and owner of that. I love him dearly, and I love what he does with the label. This release is from a band called Money. The record is called Stovepipe. And this is just straight 90s worship. Your Hum, your Deftones, your Smashing Pumpkins. The thing that I really enjoy about it is they are just turning it to 11, to borrow the Spinal Tap phrase. It's louder. And I know that sounds like very basic to observe, but the way that they are bringing the instruments to the front. It's not just like a wall of noise. You can you hear the intricacies. And Money is from Oklahoma City, and they share members of like Curse the Knife and a bunch of other cool bands in that particular scene. And I just love what the record is doing. So it's called Stovepipe, and the band's called Money. It's in the weekly recommendations playlist. Find it in the show notes, listen to that record, and then all the other things I've recommended. So hopefully you'll be able to find something you enjoy. So now let us talk to Akil from Indit. And like I said, please listen to their new record called Wrong Side of Heaven, out now on Flat Spot Records. Let's go. Clearly, you wave the flag of Baltimore like you should. And there's a long history of Baltimore hardcore in general. And every band, I don't care what the style is from Baltimore, has always kind of embodied that underdog nature of the city, where it's like you're paying attention, but you're not really paying attention. So we're going to make you pay attention. Even though all the bands sound different, have you noticed a through line of that sort of attitude, kind of regardless of the sound of the band?
I mean, yeah, it's always an anomaly that a band from Baltimore gets attention. You know, even when me and the homies decided like, yo, we need to start booking shows, and Kill's gonna be an Ended, and we're gonna do all that. It wasn't uncommon for a popular band to be coming through town and just skip Baltimore. Because what was the point? You can go to Philadelphia, you can hit New York, you got Richmond, you got DC. There was really no necessarily need to stop in Baltimore. Also, Baltimore is a shithole, and it is dangerous, and you shouldn't come here.
Just to be clear. Yeah.
Just to be clear. But so I understand. Yeah, there's definitely an underdog nature to what we do around these parts. But the national anthem was written here.
True. I mean, the classic underdog story.
What else? Johns Hopkins Hospital, the biggest hospital in the world, is based right out of here.
Yeah. I mean, we wouldn't have got the Wire. We wouldn't have got the Auto Bar. There's a lot of places.
I mean, a lot of real good things came out of Baltimore, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. The reason I ask that is because, like, I mean, every city's scenes kind of embrace some sort of attitude, whether it's, superiority from, LA or New York, or just the weird nature of Florida. But it's like Baltimore, regardless, like if it's a band like Indit or a band like Beach House, or it's just like, there's always that element of like, I don't know if you're paying attention to us yet.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, because again, why would you? I mean, in all honesty, I moved to El Paso, Texas. Obviously, I love Baltimore. My daughter's still here. I'm from here. Baltimore does not change, and that's kind of the beauty. There really is nothing to do here but drink, sleep around, do drugs or whatever. But we own it. There's no shame for us because we like it. We want it to stay this way. Change will happen. Progress must occur, but we like it just the way it is.
Absolutely. I get that.
Well,
putting the lens on you as a human being, were you actually born and raised in the area? I wasn't sure exactly where you came up.
So I'm originally I was born in Turner Station, which is the oldest Black settlement in Baltimore County, right? Just outside of Sparrows Point, which is where Bethlehem Steel, the steel mill used to be. That's where my dad and my whole family grew up. On my father's side, grew up on the steel mill and like worked at the steel mill. And then I was born in Turner Station. When I was 3, they moved us to Rosedale, which is just over the city county line. So like I got the benefits of going to Baltimore County schools, but literally across the street was Baltimore City. My home address is a city zip code. Let's put it that way.
Got it. And describe your, I guess, family life coming up, like the structure of your household. Where I mean, like you mentioned, your dad was working in the steel mills. Like, what was your mom doing? Was she an important part of your life? Brothers and sisters? What did the composition of the house look like?
So I'm the youngest of three. I got my older brother Rock, and my oldest brother Mel Jr. from my father's first marriage. My parents have been together my entire life. I no pretty, in all honesty, pretty standard American working class household. You know what I mean? But on Sundays we go to church. I was raised Baptist. I'm black from Baltimore, so we went to, yeah, we used to go to Afram. We went to the Sparrows Point reunion at the yacht club. They would have the yearly come see dad at work day, and you get a tour of the steel mill. But like traditional old school black Baltimore, which a lot of people don't really understand when I say that. Especially in like the course of me dating people over the years, they talk about their households, and I'm like, yeah, that didn't. There was no. The most deviant person in my house is me. Let's put it that way. Like growing up until, look at it this way, until I was 25, I didn't close. I wasn't allowed to have my bedroom door closed. You know what I mean? Like there was no, like I'd subjugate the rules and do my little bit of shit, but on the surface, nah. You want to go to the hardcore show? You need to be in school. There was no skipping school. There was no not graduating. None of that shit. You want to be a little criminal? That's beautiful. Make sure your black ass is at school in the morning.
Right.
Like that.
You
That
got to
was
hold
full
up
stop
your
period.
Yeah. You got
So
to
I
hold
got
up
a
your
whole
end of the
lot of
bargain.
space. I got a whole lot of space and free time growing up to, like, run around and skateboard and hang out with the white kids and go to hardcore shows. But you're going to graduate. Like one of my biggest things I'm proud of is whatever foolishness I got into outside of the house, I never brought it back to the house.
Okay. Got it.
Like
You
no
knew
one's
that
ever
that
come
wasn't the
knocking on
point.
my door. Police never came to my house. We don't play that shit.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
it and do you think that was because, like, that was made pretty clear that you were not, like whatever you did, you had to color inside the lines at home, so to speak?
Well, at one point, it was definitely like a fear thing, because I was actually my father's. I'm not gonna put Mel business out there. Mel
Sure.
was a person of interest. Um, but then as you get older, and especially from an early age, I recognized that, like, oh, there's a lot of responsibility being put on me as a latchkey kid. Like he worked at that. My old man retired when I was 9 after 30 years in the steel mill. So I always grew up knowing how hard he worked and everything him and my mother went to maintain this home. So I wasn't going to get was so stupid because I wasn't going to ruin all of their hard work. I'd be an asshole to go get arrested or, find myself in a situation where I'm jeopardizing everything they worked hard for. Remember, my old man he went to middle school during desegregation. So I got firsthand accounts of just how hard it was to be black in Baltimore. Out of respect to them, I may not agree with my parents. I mean, they're my parents, they're people. I'm not gonna disrespect what they got going on. I'm not gonna ruin that for them. You
Yep.
know. So
I mean, that's pretty. Not only, I mean, clearly it impacted you to hear, not only hear those stories, but understand like the actual sacrifices that your parents made. Because a lot of kids, like, yeah, they hear their stories from their parents and are like, whatever. But like it hit you in a different way where you're just like, oh, dude, like they really sacrificed a lot to get us to the
yeah.
point where we're at.
And of course, I'm talking about my dad a whole lot. My mother, she graduated college, and then she married my father, and then she went into childcare and licensing. They had a business growing up. She taught early childhood education classes, the 45 and 90-hour certification course. Uh, I believe in like 97, 98, she got her master's because they threw a big old party at the house. So, like, education obviously was important, but my mom was concerned with, like, you got to speak to kings and education. And my dad's like, you can also just work at a steel mill,
Right.
you know?
Well, that must have been an interesting, push and pull for you to see the labor, the education route. And it's like, oh, I could open either door if I wanted to.
But then the juxtaposition of the fact that, I grew up in public school, and education is what they taught all of us, because you need to go to school, blah, 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 go to college, and then become old enough to realize, like, oh, my dad was reading like C.S. Lewis books and Nietzsche and stuff like that. I grew up thinking because dad just went to work and didn't have a college degree that he wasn't as intelligent. And he was like, oh no, I had to take care of the family. So I went to the steel mill. Your mother's not smarter than me. She just went to college.
Right.
Like, you can be a goon, and that's why I am the way I am. You can be an absolute goon and still read the screw tape letters.
Totally. Yeah, you could read Mere Christianity and be like, oh yes, I understand this. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, like, you don't, just because you chose to do manual labor doesn't make you less than.
It's a
But also, just because you went to college doesn't make you better than.
It's a very good point, because, I mean, there's that especially within the context of punk and hardcore, there's always that idea of, street smarts and all that posturing of being like, like I'm an uneducated person that just like beats people up or whatever. And then it's like, if anybody actually betters themselves, and then you realize like, oh, humans have multitudes. Like, they don't just have to be one thing or another.
Exactly. Also, my father was a Freemason. So
how do you think that impacted you? Like, because, I mean, that's clearly a very distinct, I mean, there's rituals, there's obviously history. Were you ever interested in, I guess, pursuing that at any point?
I got to my second degree, and then the band started touring a whole lot, and I haven't had the opportunity to go back now.
Got it.
But once it settles down, then yeah.
Yeah. Then you're going to start your hardcore Freemason band, right?
Not even. So, I mean, between me, you, and whatever else is going, I've always had the idea of starting a hardcore chapter of Freemasonry.
That is totally within, I mean, I could at least think of 3 people just off the top of my head that already have an affiliation, not only with hardcore, but are Freemason. So there you go, dude. Start it up, baby.
It's all about community and brotherhood and friendship. So why not? That's what we're doing anyway.
It's true. Just different. It's a different room. That's all.
That's really all. Yeah. Different outfit. Same rules. Different outfit.
There's a few things in life that make me happy. One of them is, of course, merch. And that is why I love working with Rockabilly.com. And I've worked with them for so many years that it brings me so much joy, because people write me and say how much they enjoy shopping on the site. First and foremost, use the promo code 100 words or less. Gets you 10% off your entire order. And you can order limited edition merch from bands like Cradle of Filth, Ghost Inside, Ghost. They actually have a sex toy on sale right now. No joke. Go to rockabilly.com and check it out. But all joking aside, they have officially licensed merch from hardcore, punk, metal, indie rock, hip hop, boomer rock, whatever it is you're looking for, they got it. And it's all officially licensed. So that means the bands get paid. Everybody sees money. The bands see money. You're supporting an independent business, and then you get a cool piece of merch for it. Oh man. I showed my son the site probably 6-7 months ago, and he basically spends at least half an hour a day on it, just browsing, seeing what cool stuff is happening. They ship from the Midwest in the United States of America. Hardcore and punk kids work there. There's literally no reason you shouldn't support it. So go to rockabilly.com, use the promo code 100 words or less right now.
You know how everything's a subscription now? Music, movies, even socks. I swear if it...
To continue this ad, please upgrade to Premium Plus Platinum.
What? No. Anyway, Blue Apron...
This is a pay-per-listen ad. Please confirm your billing.
Oh, that's annoying. At least with the new Blue Apron, there's no subscription needed. Get delicious meals delivered without the weekly plan.
Wait, no subscription?
Keep the flavor. Ditch the subscription. Get 20% off your first 2 orders with code APRON20. Terms and conditions apply. Visit blueapron.com/terms for more.
I know you mentioned being raised in the Baptist church, and almost everybody brings it up in every interview, but I wanted to speak specifically in regards to, I guess the church experience, and that clearly is part of who you are from a singing perspective and joining the choir. How were you interacting, I guess, with like the religious aspect? I know you were going to it because obviously it was important for your family and your friends and neighbors and community. But were you, I guess, believing in the religious aspect of it, or are you just kind of doing it just because it was fun and your parents made you?
I mean, yeah, from an early age, I was questioning things, but that's just what you do. It wasn't until within the last 6, 7 years that I realized, like, I'm not going to hell, so to speak. There really is no heaven or hell. And when you die, you're going to be, that's not what's going on here. It's an allegory. It's not fact. It's an allegory. These are stories that you're supposed to use to guide your life. So I didn't have the vocabulary or the nomenclature when I was younger, but now that I'm old enough, I mean, I believe in a God. Whether you believe in God or not, God's real because people say it's real. It's no different than people identifying as trans. If you're not familiar with that culture, you think they're making it up. I know too many trans people for the trans identity to not be real.
Yep.
So
It's all based on, I mean, not only the personal experience, but then, like you said, actually running into the idea or concept, and it's like, well, yes, this is real because it's right in front of me.
and some of the things I've gotten into, some nights I'd have walked in that fucking house and been like, yeah, I don't know if God is real, but something's out there because I should have been dead. I'm gonna be completely honest. I should have been dead a couple times over. I have no idea how we made it out, but here we are. So if I gotta chalk that up to God, well, that's what it is.
Right. You're just like,
there's no explanation.
Sure. You're like, I'll tap in, I'll move on and be like, thanks God, I'm glad I'm here breathing.
And I'm glad to give someone the glory. Fuck.
Totally. I know you've spoke about the intro point to punk and hardcore being video games, and Tony Hawk is clearly an important part of you discovering that. Once you got past Goldfinger and a lot of the bands that were included on that soundtrack, what was kind of like your next step from there? Were you actually going to the record stores and grabbing these CDs and stuff? Like, how did you, I guess, kind of start to open Pandora's box?
So, in the most stereotypical child of the 90s way, I was just consuming whatever the mainstream had to offer. But we got VH1, you got MTV. So whatever music videos and were pop things that were popular, that's what I was into. But I also had my father who was into heavy metal and whatnot. Like, only reason he didn't go to Woodstock is because he had to work. So I had the counterculture on the back end. And then I got to high school. And when you get to high school, you make friends. Friends start bands. And like, hey, come see my band. And like, oh, well, let me check this out. And then you check out that band and you check out this band and you go to shows and you start meeting people and doing things. So that's what kind of really opened it up more.
Got it. And the idea, like you said, of, having that counterculture element existing in the home, did you, I got, you clearly recognize that within, punk and hardcore and DIY. What kept you attached to that as far as wanting to start a band and stuff like that? Was it, the community? Was it the music? Was it kind of everything that you were experiencing?
Yeah, it was definitely the music and the community because as I found out what real hardcore was, and I started going to real hardcore shows, not like that fucking swoosh bang, skinny jeans, screamo shit that I was going to. I found real hardcore, and I did find a community because we say jumped off the porch. I jumped off the porch kind of early. So going to the hardcore show, and regardless of the fact that I was like 15, 16, and having people be like, yeah, I'll go to the liquor store for you. Yeah, you smoke weed here. I'm like, oh, this is just like hanging out with my family. That's beautiful. So I got to stick around. Now there's a 6 soundtrack. So yeah, I'm going to keep coming in.
Right.
Because it was fun. They were more than accepting. People thought, I heard a lot from a lot of alternative Black kids, and it's like a thing. They say they never felt welcomed or accepted. And I'm like, well, you were actually just hanging out with the wrong people. Like, straight up, in the most classic sense, I started going to the shows. I found out about these bands. If my friends aren't going, I'm still going to go by myself. It's going to be weird because I'm by myself, but I'll friend orbit around someone that I met before, or maybe had a drink with a couple times. You keep showing up, you build a reputation. You don't sleep with the girls and treat them bad. You treat everyone with respect. You build a good name for yourself. Now, 20 years later, you'll end it. It's really not that difficult.
Right. I mean, it's the straightest line possible, right?
It really is. Just go listen. I went to the music. I went to go see the band.
Right.
I like for real. I'm a late bloomer. I had no idea people. Why would you start a band to get laid? That's weird. Why? That's a lot of work.
Right.
But dudes do that.
Absolutely. Like that conceit. I mean, especially now more than ever, where the idea of like playing in a band is not an original idea, nor are tattoos. Like these are all tried and true now. So it's like, it's not edgy, but the fact that, like you said, that there are still people, young teenagers being like, man, I can't wait to start a band so I can make out with a girl. Really?
It's like, if you just talk to her and be nice to her, she'll let you make out with her.
Totally.
I turn down more women now than teenage me would. It's insane.
Sure. And that was actually something I was going to hit on a little bit later, but it feels appropriate to bring up now, where that, and actually before we were recording, you were talking about the rooting of ego. Like it's very easy to kind of step into that stream of like, I'm obviously cool. I sing for bands, I'm funny. Like you can put on any of those things on yourself and buy into it. How have you, I guess, tried to keep that at a healthy balance or push it away? How have you tried to, I guess, navigate that?
Well, I have an old lady, I have my girlfriend, and that's that. But with great power comes great responsibility. So like I do find myself, like lately as the band grows or whatnot, I can't just be as friendly as I once was, Because like if you catch me at a show, you will not see a bunch of men around me. I'm always talking to the girls. You never know if I'm sleeping with a woman or not, because I I just hang out with women. I've always hung out with women. This isn't a weird thing for me, but I have recognized that I don't want to go making parasocial relationships by accident. You know, just because like I may have a drink and decide to be overtly friendly in the DMs because I'm bored. There's a lot of downtime when you're in a band, and then you sober up and it's like, oh, you thought I was building. I just had my phone in my hand and was just having a conversation. But I like to tell people this is the closest I'll ever get to being a hot girl.
Sure.
So people were misreading your interactions and like, oh no, I was just being friendly. I don't want to sleep with you.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in a relationship with you. That's insane.
Right. I was just goofing around. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just bullshit now.
Sure. Going back to like you said, you've articulated before, you didn't graduate high school, but clearly education was still an important part of your process.
Oh no, I definitely graduated high school.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to misquote.
Nah, that was the number one rule. I don't give a fuck what you do. We don't make visits to the jail. You graduate high school.
Got it. Non-negotiables. Yeah.
Non-negotiable.
Did you, I guess there's a two-part question. Did you ever take a stab at college? And on the top of that, like, was there a sort of life path / plan? I mean, clearly you weren't going to work in the steel mills because that was kind of a dying industry. But did you go to college and what was the life plan?
It's funny you would mention that. I thought I was going to go work in the steel mill. And the year I graduated high school, they sold the fucking steel mill and closed it.
Oh, God.
Seriously, it was all lined up. I mean, I had no plan. I still don't have any plans or goals or aspirations in life. I thought I was just gonna go get a job, work. My parents would get old. I'll be in Baltimore to take care of my parents. I'll inherit the house. They'll pass. I'll just live my life. I'll keep going to shows forever. Make sure no fucking Nazis come around. And I was more than content with that. I went to 2 semesters of college And each time I just stopped going. I was like, I can't do this. I remember my first fucking English class, dog, English 101, because of course I test poorly because who cares? And college is about making money, so you got to take your prereqs. I'm in the English class. Old boy was like, hey, did anyone read a book over the summer? And that summer I had just read Kitchen Confidential by Bourdain. And I raised my hand. And I was the only person to raise their hand who read a book. Also, shout out to that guy, because I bailed on that class and he still gave me a C. And I think it's because I was the only person who read a fucking book.
Right.
It was the 13th grade. I hated it so much. I'm seeing people that I went to grade school with over the years. And I'm like, this is just like all the high schools put into one room. I don't like this.
Yeah, sure. And especially too when you ostensibly are supposed to have some sort of a different experience than what you did in high school, and when you feel like you said it's the 13th grade, it's like, what am I even doing here? I can just like quote unquote start life now. Why am I being held in another classroom?
But also, remember, Ended's whole thing is like suicide, blah, blah, blah. I didn't plan to live this long. Like, I didn't think I was going to make it to 18. And then I made the 18 and I was like, yo, by 21, I'm going to be out. And then by 21, I was like, definitely going to join the 27 club. I had a fucking kid at 27. So that's when I had to start pulling it back because I made a child. That little girl does not deserve to deal with a horrible life because her father wants to be an asshole.
Heavy music, merchandise, and records. That is the simple description of what evilgreed.com does. You need to go there. But first, here's a promo code that gets you 10% off your first order. You can't get this anywhere else. Use the promo code NEWMUSIC and it gets you 10% off. So much amazing stuff. I don't care if you're into bands like Chelsea Wolfe and Blood Incantation or if you're into AFI, Speed, Spaced. They have so much cool stuff from all things metal, punk, hardcore. I love what this company does. I support them to the very, very end. They've been working with the show for a very long time, and I not only appreciate the support, but I love it because people write me and say, dude, never heard of Evil Greed. Love that you're recommending this. So it is a very virtuous cycle that exists here. And they have exclusive colors of vinyl. They got it all. They ship from Berlin, Germany. Worldwide shipping, no issues whatsoever, and not expensive. It is a very cost-efficient way to get stuff to you and buy from all different bands of all shapes and sizes, of record labels like Days and Closed Casket, or bands like Death Heaven, Chat Pile, Brutus. You get the point. Go to evilgreed.com and go shopping. I guess with that, I'm not going to say Death Wish per se, but, maybe it resembles that.
No, I definitely had a death wish.
Okay.
Like,
so, yeah. So go tell me more about that. Like, I mean, you were, was that like,
I mean, I used to do like wild ass shit like, oh, let's eat 9 Xanax, drink a fifth of whiskey and get behind the wheel.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Let's go over here and do this. Like, I wholeheartedly, and I don't think people really truly understand. The person you see right now is me on the other side of those things. You're like, wow, you're like a real asshole. That's how I know there is a God.
Sure.
Because like, without saying too much, let's put it this way. At one point in my life, you should have crossed the street when you saw me.
Got it.
Not to say that I was going to do something to you, but who knows what the fuck I was going to do? Who knows what substance I was on or what I was feeling? I used to leave the house and just kick side mirrors off of cars by myself, hammered.
Right.
You know?
Was the drinking and the illicit activities that you were taking a part in, minor vandalism and what have you, was that I guess coming from a place of boredom, or was that like kind of the nihilistic nature of just being like, I'm not going to be here much longer? Like,
I'm just a fucking punk. I'm just a punk.
Okay.
Who cares? I'm black. I'm from America. You know what I mean? I'm just learning of the history. You got the 3/5 compromise. There really is I'm not going to become president. I don't want to be president. I don't want to work at the steel mill. I don't want to be responsible. Like, I want to go to shows. If I'm dead, I don't have anything to deal with. Like, there was like a 10-year stretch. I couldn't give a fuck less. But you know what I never did? Sexually assault anybody. You know what I mean? I never didn't give so much of a fuck that I would really trespass on someone in a irreparable manner.
Sure.
You know, a little fight here and there, little vandalism, little arson, little
Sure.
graffiti, but like
Right.
never. I never beat a motherfucker into a coma. You know, there was always a limit. Like, all right, he's done.
Sure.
And of course, I got nothing but respect and love for women. I never would treat a woman like that. That's not a thing I'm into.
Yeah. Well, I think, I mean, I'm glad you articulated that because I think it's, I mean, not just to, absolve yourself, but just the idea of like, of being like, no matter how, nihilistic, irreparable some behavior is, you're just like, well, there is a core component of me that understands the limits of my behavior where I'm like, no, I would never do that, no matter how out of my wits I am.
Do unto others.
Sure.
That if anything, that's one thing I live by. So the things I've done to people, like if you ever hear that someone killed me, don't be so upset. You know what I mean? I've not been a good person, but do unto others as you would have done others to do unto you. So there's a certain list of crimes where I'm like, yeah, that's not for me.
Yep.
I don't think you should do those things.
Sure. And because you were, doing all this, around shows, going to shows, and then, like you said, kind of, not taking it home per se, how did your parents kind of treat, I mean, your taste in music and kind of the weird stuff you most likely were bringing home? Were they just like, as long as he's going to school and as long as he's not, like getting arrested, then we're okay?
So my old man knew what type of sons he brought into this world. Because like I said, if we're anything in my household, we're self-aware. So that's why he had to be so strict, because he knew who he was before he had children. Also, my dad had me when he was 41 years old. So this is an adult man be like, yeah, nah, hey, he didn't want to. I'm going through your things. There is no privacy because you're my son. Case in point, I bought a machete to a show once because someone was disrespectful to somebody. And I had real big plans to prove a point. And I got a call from my old man and he said, I noticed that machete's gone. And so I dropped it.
That is an incredible sentence. I noticed that machete's gone. You gonna drop that?
No. And he just dropped, that's all he says. Like, I noticed that machete ain't in your room. You be safe. And then he hung up the phone. All right.
Yeah, you're like,
because I mean, real spill. I gained nothing in bragging. Motherfucker was going to get it because what he said to this person and the way he had been conducting himself. And you can ask about me in the Baltimore scene. At one point in my life, I was judge, jury, and executioner. You're not going to be out here treating people poorly, and I'm around. At least don't let me get wind of it, because if I don't get to treat people like that, you don't.
So it's selfish in nature. You're like, if I could treat people like that, it'd be good. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, but I don't. I totally could. I could have been a major bully. I had backing. I got homies, but no, that's not. This isn't about. Like I won't go to shows because I know there'll be people there that I don't like. But it's not about me. It's about the scene. So I'll sit this one out because I already know I'm going to go start a problem.
Right. Something that I was going to ask as well is the line that you are kind of talking about right there, like the nature of being tough versus like looking tough. I mean, clearly that's always existed within the context of punk and hardcore because there is that line that has to be balanced, and then sometimes that line is crossed because a person has to be beat up and taught a lesson, et cetera, et cetera. How did you kind of like calibrate that for yourself, being like, hey, if I like look tough and I project a certain image, that will be more effective than like actually beating a person up? Or are you still figuring that out?
I didn't realize people were afraid of me until like 2-3 years ago.
Okay.
Where I was sitting around with a couple buddies. It was my buddy Spencer and myself and his old lady and my old lady at the time. And we were just talking about something. And I was like, yo, wait, people are afraid of me? And they were like, the fuck do you mean people are afraid of you? Yeah. Because you got to think, I grew up in Baltimore. Like, I actually grew up in Baltimore. Christmas Eve, 1995, I had a gun put to the back of my head at Golden Ring Mall over a misunderstanding. I was in middle school with cats who had children and then were already committing murders. So I didn't think I was a bad kid, you know? And then you get into this hardcore thing where a lot of dudes do that posturing thing. I I don't mind going to jail. I'm not afraid. I'm probably gonna have a friend. There's probably someone I went to school with inside jail right now. So I had no idea that people were afraid of me. I always thought myself as a good kid and a good guy. And then you travel, you hit the road, you go on tour, you start telling stories and whatnot. And then you tell a certain story and the whole room gets quiet and you're like, oh, that's not a thing. My fault.
Yeah, you're like, sorry, that's just me.
Oh yeah, that's my apologies. I didn't know you guys. You never hit a man in the face with a cane on Christmas Eve? No. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was just I heard a friend did it. That's all I heard. I'm just telling a story here.
And then I picked up bodies at one point in time, just before the pandemic and during the pandemic. So then that completely changed my view on human life and what is and ain't important. I got a weird worldview, but again, do unto others.
Sure. Yeah, and speak to me about that a little bit, like the worldview, like especially when you are handling the dead or working with. I mean, just as a random example, it's like one of my favorite television shows of all time is 6 Feet Under, and dude, so good. But like, so tell me your experience, like how that affected you to alter the way that you view life in general.
Let's be honest. One day you're gonna die. Hopefully you die in a situation where someone can retrieve your body and you've maintained good friendships and relationships and someone will care. A lot of people die without family, you know?
Yep.
But also with every breath you take, someone on the planet Earth is passing away. So regardless of whether it's someone you care about or someone you don't care about, it's just what it is. It's not necessarily, it's only a tragedy because you knew that person.
Yep.
So it kind of makes you detached to the world because, yes, I'm seeing you on the worst day of your life. I really need to eat.
Right.
This is actual, oh, your daughter died. She had spina bifida. She was 12 years old. Oh my God, that is so upsetting. Anyway, I have 3 more calls after this, and they're each 2 hours away from each other.
Yeah, we got to
I
get
don't know what
going.
to tell you. I don't know. I got things to do. Like what they call in the military. My football coach in high school used to have this thing called FIDO. It's called "fuck it, drive on," and he learned it when he was in the army. You, we don't even have time to pay attention to that. They're shooting at us. I know your battle buddy got shot and it's fucked up and he's dead. But if you stay here next to him, you will also get shot and die. It is time to leave. And that's life.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean, the impermanence of not only everything that we're doing, but our existence. Like each waking moment is one of those snapshots of being like, oh, like this. We can't even though we're measuring in time. It is such a infinitely small thing that we exist in. So yeah, sometimes you do have no choice but to be like, oh, well, I got to keep rolling. Like, even though insurmountable challenges are like, well, I got to keep it rolling.
When my dad got divorced from his first wife, he always has told me this. He had to move back home with his parents, and his father, my grandfather, was like, "You got divorced, huh? You sad? Your heart hurt, huh? Stop going to work and see how worse your problems will get."
That's true.
And
it's very true.
He wasn't trying to be callous. This man fought in World War II. He wasn't trying to be callous. Things continue, unfortunately. I would love to sit around and just bereave. You can't. I got a kid. I got the band. I got to take care of myself, even.
Yep.
So what you gonna do?
Keep it moving. On a somewhat lighter note, the like you mentioned, the integration of, the MySpace-core era of your life. Like, I find that I'm a little bit older than you, but like was definitely aware of that, going to the shows, experienced it. And I like that was such a not only a moment in time, but it also was so fertile. Like you could just be like, I'm going to consume the entire Rise Records catalog because this is like I love this. I can't stop listening to this. So for you, what I guess spoke to you about that particular era beyond just the fact that that was like an early introduction point?
So yeah, MySpace and all that was the whole scene thing in Hollywood Undead. That was my intro to this aggressive style of music and this lifestyle.
Sure.
But, and I've said this on another podcast, there was a fucking meme, and I used to be embarrassed by it, but I can only talk about what I've lived through. There's a meme. It was some fucking swoosh bang, youth large, skinny jean kid, and the one picture was like him with a microphone and said, "This is not hardcore." And then the picture below it was fucking rabies wearing the construction gloves and said, "This is hardcore." So I found out what that was. And then I got into Warzone. So one of the first hardcore bands I ever got into was Warzone by myself because of a meme on MySpace. And it was
That's
all
beautiful.
downhill from there.
Vinyl is an extremely important part of our independent music culture, and how you display it is incredibly important as well. That is why I love working with Wicker Wood Works. First and foremost, they want you to save 10% off of orders of $500 or more using this promo code 100 words. That gets you that 10% off, and you will be able to buy all cool things to store your vinyl. I don't care if you have a massive collection like me, or if you have a smaller to mid-size collection. I was about to say medium, but mid, that works, right? I have a piece in my home office, and when people walk in and we're hanging out and listening to records or whatever, like, is that a custom piece? I'm like, well, it is, but you can order it yourself from Wicker Wood Works, and it's just as cool. It ships free, it arrives fully assembled, and it's guaranteed for life. And they source all of their wood from local-owned businesses, and they are just an incredibly cool company. And there's no better way to display your vinyl collection than Wicker Wood Works. Again, use a promo code 100 words for 10% off orders of $500 or more. I love vinyl. Display it appropriately. I mean, and truthfully, the reason that all of that, I mean, not only the meme as an introduction to a band, it's like, diving into bands' top eights and then starting to be like, this is the difference between Suicide Silence and Job for a Cowboy or whatever. And it's like, no one cares besides the actual people who are just like in it and living it and breathing it. And then, yeah, all of a sudden one day arrives and you're like, I don't listen to any of that anymore because, yeah, I found rabies. It's amazing.
So again, a lot of that, the Red Chord, Job for a Cowboy, Alicia, the kids that I thought were cool in high school and we became friends, that's what they like doing because they had that aesthetic of what I saw on the internet.
Yep.
But then I started doing my own research, so to speak, and was like, yeah, I was 160 pounds at 10 years old. I've always been a big boy. I couldn't pull off that scene kid aesthetic.
Sure.
And then I found this hardcore shit and I'm like, hell yeah. That's where I'm supposed to be, over here with these guys. I was already drinking. I've been drinking alcohol since I was 12 years old. I'm from Baltimore. All you gotta do is walk down the street, play Hey Mister. I've already been doing things outside of the house because I was a latchkey kid. So then I found this hardcore thing, and I'm like, yeah, that's way more my speed over there.
Yeah, I could wear basketball jerseys there. I can't wear basketball jerseys over here.
Can't wear basketball jerseys. Yeah, I used to pull up to the gig in a fucking 25 to life basketball jersey and get vicious on them. Which is crazy though, because now whenever Rick has a fucking psychopathic episode, one of the first bands he starts shitting on is us. And I'm like, yo, that's crazy. I love 25 to life, you fuck. Also, I know where Rick lives, and I used to see Rick all the time. So it really bothers me because I'm like, why are you doing this to me, Rick? We met. I know you. I bought shit from your distro. I had nothing but respect for 25 to life, but mental health is real.
Right. Yeah. You're like, why am I getting dragged? Like, I actually legitimately like Come and Correct. Come on, Rick, leave me alone.
I mean, one of my OGs, Nick Calhoun. I say rest in peace. I don't know if he dead or not, but he dropped out. He played Incoming Correct.
Unbelievable.
You know what I mean?
think
Like, I got nothing but respect for Rick.
totally. When you started to, play in bands and start to experience that, because I know, like you said, Indit wasn't, or you said in other places, Indit is obviously not your first band. Did you feel comfortable when you stepped on stage kind of right away? Or was that a learned trait over time?
Now, I'm still just as anxious as when I first got on stage, but I did, like, I grew up in the church, children's choir and whatever, get solos. I was a baby in the choir for a long time. So every time I go to choir rehearsal, anytime I go to church, that's Deborah's son. So I've been getting doted on and been given special treatment forever in solos and whatnot. And even in high school, I got solos. So, like, it's not too abnormal. You know what I mean? I've been on, and then I'm the youngest of fucking like almost 12 children at one point in time. You know what I mean? I've been on display my whole life.
Right. You're like, this is comfortable. I'm looking for attention. I'm finding it here.
I joke about it, but yeah, I low key need attention, whether I would like to admit it or not, because I've always gotten it.
Sure.
You
Well,
know what I mean? Like, my family loves me, dog. I don't know what other people, and that's like the juxtaposition between being actually like a Black American from an old school family, but coming into this hardcore shit. A lot of those kids are the children of divorce and broken homes and whatnot. Who cares if my parents like each other or not? We are Godzies because we Black of a certain point. There was no not being family. And who cares if you don't like your cousin? Go make up. Go fight it out or whatever you gotta do. That's your cousin. That's your brother. You don't get to just ostracize them. Now they do something heinous. All right, we'll deal with it. But you don't get to not be a part of the gang just because you don't like something.
Totally. And
You know?
and truthfully, I mean, with the personality that you have as well, like, just being friendly, introducing yourself to people, and sort of that you're predisposed to be a person that's mixing it up with a lot of people. And usually that makes it a little bit easier to, be on stage and be in front of people.
Yeah. I don't mind.
Yeah, I get it. The idea, and I use this term jokingly because I always find it funny when people reference, pro-core, because that always comes in and out of the, scene vernacular. It's a stigma that is far less meaningful, in 2025 than it was, pre-pandemic. And bands actually having ambition to be, larger than just playing in front of 100 people, in a basement or whatever. Now the fact that, you are navigating that for your own band, obviously with, the rest of the band and trusted partners and stuff, how do you interact with, I guess, the, music industry, as it were? Is it something that you just kind of, take these things as they come, or do you have to have a more, business mindset in your approach?
So we definitely have a more business mindset in our behavior, right? But in terms of how I feel about things, I'm still the same old hardcore kid.
Okay.
Like, this is people, and I tell people all the time, people say, hey, can y'all play? And we say yes or no. And that is it. I'm not snoozing, I'm not rubbing elbows, I'm not in the DMs, I'm not laughing at jokes and trying to like win favor with people or anything like that. I'm just in Ended, and people ask Ended to play shows, and then I show up and be the person that I am, and we get more opportunities. That's all it is. In terms of like the music industry and whatnot, I kind of feel bad for the boys. I wish I wasn't the way I am. We could probably get more out of life, you know? But unfortunately, I have certain things that I'm unwavering on, and I'm just not going for, which will probably hinder us in certain regard. But what's for you is what's for you.
Yeah. What is I mean, I always look at like the, early 90s in regards to the term selling out, and bands were, saying no to things that some of it you totally understood, but then other ones where you're just like, why wouldn't you say yes to that? Whereas like now every band says yes to every opportunity, as long as it makes sense. There are obviously some principled, decisions that have to be made, but you're like, I'm just operating on the simple term of like, do I want to play this show or not, or do I want to participate in this or not? Does this feel right? Yeah, okay, let's do it then.
Like you got to think outside of the band. Before this band even started, I've deleted like 2-3 Instagram accounts with a significant amount of followers because I don't know what to say out of my fucking mouth. I drink a little alcohol. I put my phone in front of my face. I give my opinion. So
Sure,
I
that's how you're
don't
handling.
care.
Right. Sure.
Like seriously, I'm just being me, and people seem to be entertained and they like it, and that's great because for the first time in my life, I'm earning money and I don't have to give. I'm not being phony. I'm just being who I am. You either like it or don't,
Yep.
and that's it.
That is sick. Yeah. How do you handle tour? Do you? I presume there's aspects of it you like, aspects of it you don't like. How you navigating that? The band is clearly becoming more active, and you guys have a lot of stuff going on.
I mean, one shout out to my old lady. I stay on FaceTime. I get a quiet moment, and regardless of what I'm going through, I give Miss Kristen a call, and because she's a regular, smart, normal person, who'll be like, "Hey, so I hear what you're saying. That's wrong. You can't do that. That's not gonna help you." But I don't know. We're making changes in terms of the band. We're not drinking as much. We're not partying as much, and we are more business minded in the fact that when there's money being spent, right? You got to recoup it. There's people putting their uh, trust in us, which goes back to what I said about my parents. So, like, if I know for a fact that this person is putting up these resources to benefit us, I would be an asshole to not make right on that. So now that the stakes are getting higher because there is like money involved, we're actually calming down a whole lot.
That's good.
So in terms of touring, we're not drinking as much. We're not being as rowdy. I don't necessarily wake up every day on tour hoping I get into a fight or some shit like that.
Right.
It's, hey, make it to the town, go exercise, drink you some water, get ready to perform at the highest capability you have. Especially with the way the fucking inflation and whatnot, people, it's not cheap out here. People are really, like, for real. I really appreciate people spending their hard-earned money to buy a T-shirt or come to the gig and whatnot. I want to give you the best show you can afford, because if the shoe was on the other foot, I don't want to see some drunk asshole give me a shitty performance. So out of
Absolutely.
respect, like, respect is a very big thing for me. Hey, you think enough of me to take your precious moments in life to come be entertained by me? I'm going to entertain you to my fullest ability.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. It's
And
the
some fucking mouth breathing keyboard warrior giving his opinion, his faceless opinion on the internet, I don't care.
right. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Right.
The golden rule.
Exactly. Last few things I wanted to hit on was I'm sure both of these are weird for you, but what's weirder for you, like opening for Blink or being on Tony Hawk, just because those are both, pretty interesting cultural touch points for your band?
I still can't believe it. I
Just,
can't. I was
just in
just
general.
actually, I was playing Tony Hawk before we got on this call. What the fuck you mean, my band? One, I got a band. You know what I mean? As long as I didn't get in a band until 2015. By 2015, I had been in the scene at least 10 years, 11 years. So cool. Now I'm in a band that's popping. I'm in the Tony Hawk game. What? I had a Blink 182 poster hanging up in my room. What do you mean I'm opening for Blink 182?
Right. Yeah.
You know, like it's so surreal. I can't believe it.
Yeah. No, it's incredible. the fact that the band and you, as the front person, you have a message. Like, clearly the band exists to get a point across, and isn't just solely speaking about like their own emotions. And not a lot of punk and hardcore exists within that. And I know it ebbs and flows. Like, sometimes there's a lot of bands speaking about a lot of different things. And this may just be like a complete softball question, but just, why is it important for you to obviously have a point of view attached to your band?
Because I'm a punk. And that's what punk is about. That's what attracted me to punk. You do get the space to, like, whether you want to complain about your parents, or whether you want to talk about how much you like eating Big Macs, or, you can criticize the government, or if you just want to be a fucking heroin addicted piece of shit. That's the beauty of punk. You can choose to show up and give whatever message that you see fit. And I wouldn't be doing my due diligence to society and the world around, especially being a Black American, to not speak on the inequities of what goes on in this world. Like, granted, I'm speaking from the position of being Black and my viewpoint on the world, but this isn't just for the benefit of Black people. It's for the benefit of everyone, because everyone is being abused and taken advantage of by this thing called capitalism. We don't put money into a machine and get things. The things already exist, and then you pay for them with money. The system is backwards, and people are being abused, killed, and mutilated for no reason. And I may not have the college degrees and all that, but I know right from wrong. And I was raised up in the church, and the shit ain't fucking right.
Yeah, well said.
And I would be remiss to not say something about it.
Of course, right? Like, truthfully, I think that anybody that does have a longstanding relationship with punk, hardcore, DIY, have a platform, no matter how small or large it is. Like, you feel compelled. You're just like, well, that's kind of part of my responsibility. Whereas like other scenes, like, they don't have that.
Yeah, it would be irresponsible for me to not speak out against injustice. And injustice is not someone misgendering you. This notion of a trans identity is very new. And injustice is someone using a book that's been translated multiple times to justify genocide. That's an injustice.
Yep, definitely. And the last thing I'll hit on is I could not tell you how excited I personally was for you putting Torn Apart on your record release bill. Just because it makes me happy because obviously the Baltimore connection, et cetera, et cetera. Totally self-serving question, but what prompted you to ask those guys to like come out and support you?
So remember, I got 4 other dudes in the band. It ain't just me. But
of course,
the homie Aaron Friedman, who's in Torn Apart, Aaron has looked out for us. Like, we didn't know Aaron from a can of paint. And old boy used his resources. He didn't let us stay at his house. He didn't put out a couple dollars to make sure things go smoothly on the road. And he's still doing his band thing. He supported us. We support him. And what a beautiful thing. Now we get Torn Apart to be on the record release. We cover Max Finn, so now the kids learn about Max Finn. Because the thing about this hardcore thing that a lot of the kids don't necessarily recognize is there is a lineage. It didn't just start with whatever band you love. This hardcore thing's been going on for a long time, and in the most corny, cliche way, hardcore saved my fucking life. So anything I can do to give back to the OGs who took their time and energy to write these songs so that I didn't kill myself. All right.
Yeah, let's go, baby.
It's a beautiful thing.
Thank you very much, Akil, and thank you very much for Alexa, his publicist, to be able to pull this together. Love when everything goes off without a hitch, even though you have to reschedule like a million times, and we get it done. That's what happens. But I'm so thrilled for End It and their success. I mean, they just opened for Blink. That is such a funny sentence to say, but they did, and it's awesome to see that. Next week on the show, I talk about the juxtaposition where I can have a hardcore band from Baltimore on one week, and then the next week I can have Esden Staffney from Saturdays at Your Place. Totally classic, emo, sort of pop adjacent and a pop like not in a pejorative sense, but yeah, just a really, really good band and has been DIY the entire time, really prides themselves on that. And yeah, Saturdays at Your Place is a great band. They have a new record out. And so I wanted to find out more about Esden. So that's what we do next week on the show. And until then, please be safe, everybody.
Look, it's okay to make some financial mistakes. We've all missed payments, signed up for cards we didn't need, or ignored our credit scores. You're not alone. That's why you need Experian, your big financial friend. The Experian app helps you check your FICO score, find ways to save, and get matched with credit card offers that fit your needs. Some cards are labeled No Ding Decline, which means if you're not approved, they won't hurt your credit scores. So yeah, it's okay if you haven't been the best with your finances. That's why you've got Experian on your side. Download the app for free today. Applying for No Ding Decline cards won't hurt your credit scores if you aren't initially approved. Initial approval will result in a hard inquiry, which may impact your credit scores.
Experience.